はい、それでは暗殺されたチャーリー・カークが最も信頼していた牧師の一人、ルーカス・マイルズの特別インタビュー第2弾です。
ルーカス登場。さあ、ベストセラーになっている本の状況はいかがでしょうか。教えてください。
Oh, the book did super well. It ended up being a New York Times bestseller. So it has been very well received. I've been, doing a lot of media and press, across the country. I think in the last, probably the last 120 days, I've done over 250 media appearances, podcasts, news interviews, articles, all those sorts of things, and radio shows. So it's been a very busy season, for me as we are, moving forward. Charlie would have wanted this organization to continue to push forward, doing what we had always done. We knew what the vision was. We knew what the roadmap looks like. We knew what the goals are. And Charlie built around him people that he trusted. And so, there was a time of mourning, obviously, for Charlie. And to some degree, I'm still in that. I don't know as though I've fully grieved from losing, my friend. And I don't know how you instantly recover from something like that. It's something we're still processing. But what I know is that Charlie, his heart was so much for the work that we were doing. And so we've tried to honor him by just keeping that going. And so the book was part of that. I almost tabled it. I almost, it came out right at the same time as his assassination. And so it just didn't have much of the heart at that moment. I'm sure if you go back and see some of my interviews when the book first releases, I mean, I had no desire to be there promoting, a book, but I really tried to channel that grief into the importance of the message. Charlie believed in this, the words that I wrote in my book, Pagan Threat, and he understood the danger of this infiltration of Marxism in society more than anybody. The pitfalls that were there. And so I just tried to channel that into the promotion for the book and really recognize that this threat was the thing that took Charlie's life. Rejecting God and rebelling into all these, just contrary ideas and the way in which society has evolved into, really this dangerous evolution that we've seen of it today. And it's the thing that took Charlie's life, and it's a code red right now. And so I just tried to get out there and ring the bell as best I could to let people know about this. And thank God it did well, and and continues to do well.
あの悲劇はまだ最近のことですけども、これが一体何を意味するのか、ルーカスさんやアメリカ国民にとって、また国家にとってどのような意味を持っていたのかということについて考える時間はありましたでしょうか。
Yeah, I think that, for sure, I'm a different person after September 10th. I had a vacation scheduled the week that Charlie was killed. And so, as you know, you and I had connected prior to Charlie's assassination. And, Charlie had made his trip over to Asia. The day that he left, I was able to meet with Charlie and spend some time talking with him. I shared with him, about you, about some of our conversation. And that was about a week before he died. And there was that event at Dream City called Freedom Night. And so Charlie was hosting that, but he had to catch a flight late that night in order to head over to Asia. First went to South Korea and then Japan. And he asked me if I would jump in and co-host that night with him and basically take over so that he could step out early and I could finish the service with everybody there. And so the last moment that I had with Charlie was basically him walking off stage and inviting me on stage and us sort of passing together and him handing me a microphone. And there was a prophetic, I think, and healing moment to that for me. He and I had talked a few more times over text messages and, Telegram app and things like that while he was over in Asia. But it just still, there's in many ways, it still doesn't seem real. And the question I probably hated the most the first 30 days was, how are you? Because I didn't know. And all I knew is that we had to keep going, that there was work to do, that there was a lot at stake. And my staff on my team at TPUSA Faith, they're all relatively young. We've got a few that are probably my age or older, but for the most part, I have a younger staff. And so, I'm 46 years old. I have staff members that are 23 and 24 years old. And so I really kind of took the attitude at the start of this that, it's kind of more of a triage phase. I want to just go in there and see how are they. This is a heavy thing to experience. I lived through America during 9/11. I saw different things in this nation, as an adult that they hadn't experienced yet. And my team they were so strong and they responded, with such a grace on their life and a strength for the moment. But I felt a fatherly instinct, towards them. And so I think that was the right thing to do, but I think it also delayed my dealing with this to some degree and really recognizing. And so, I've taken intentional moments. Probably one of the most healing moments I had was actually very early on. Pastor Jensen Franklin, who I would assume has somewhat of a reputation around the world, he had reached out to me the day that Charlie was killed, and I was actually on vacation with my wife. And otherwise, I would have been at the event. Charlie wanted me to be there in Utah. He had called me, or he had talked to me about it when we were in person. He's like, "You're coming to Utah, right?" And I had to remind him, "No, remember I got vacation this week." And I said, "I'll come out to the next one." And he's like, "No, definitely do that." And so I was actually out of the country in Aruba. And so that night, we felt so disconnected. My wife and I just like, we were stranded in the middle of the ocean away from the rest of the team. It just like, we're on this tropical island, and trying to enjoy our time. And then we get this call and just the world stopped and we just wanted to get home. We took the next flight out that we could. And while I was waiting to leave, I was standing there just looking at the ocean on the beach in Aruba, and my phone rings and it's Pastor Jensen Franklin, who's one of the most, well-respected pastors in America. And he had gotten known Charlie over the last, couple years and alongside of me. And he just called and prayed for me that day. And it was just, as I was worried about everybody else, to have somebody call me and just minister to me, just even for a moment, it meant the world to me. And I'll be forever grateful for him for doing that. But this is something that we keep healing from, and Charlie was irreplaceable, and every moment with him felt historic and special, and the world was robbed of a great mind, of probably a future president, of one of the greatest Americans who's ever lived on that day when Charlie's life was taken, and so it's something that I think about still daily.
未亡人になったエリカ・カークは今どうしてますでしょうか。彼女がターニングポイント USA 全体を突如引き継ぐことになったというのは、突然で信じられないことでもあったわけなんですけども。
Erika is an amazing human being. I'll probably see her over at the office here in a little bit, but she has been, I can't describe it any other way than there has been a grace on her life from the Lord to give her strength in this moment. One of the definitions I like for the word grace is God's ability. It's his ability to do what we could never do by ourselves, to overcome the things in our life. I mean, of course, God's grace overcomes sin, but it also is our daily bread. This is the Lord's Prayer. Give us this day our daily bread. I think that God has really become a daily bread for Erika to give her strength in this moment for each day, to help equip her to be able to continue this vision and this mission. She and Charlie were, obviously he was closer with her than anybody else. They truly had a special love between them. Obviously there's so much noise out there on the internet about things, but as somebody who was able to stand next to them, there was just such a genuine love. I was able to hear, Charlie's heart for her. And she understood the vision better than anybody. She would have been the person that, I know for me at my house, I wake up in the morning and I got ideas. there's things that are just generating. My wife and I, we're brushing our teeth and we're getting ready, and I'm talking to her about all the things I want to do and all the visions, and this is what they had, and then some. And so they had a real intimacy together. They spent time. She understood where he was going. And so there was a sigh of relief among the staff when the board named her as CEO. There was just kind of like, because everything was unsettled. What's going to happen? Who's going to take over? Do we even have a job tomorrow? Is this going to keep going? And as soon as they named Erika CEO, it was just kind of like, it's this peace that came on everybody. And I've she and I are both traveling all the time, different places, right? And so, because my work takes me one place and her work is taking her another place. But I've been able to, see her obviously multiple times, throughout this whole process. And she's just been so wonderful. And, she has that same sort of just uniqueness to her that Charlie had. I mean, there was a reason why they were together. She's a brilliant mind. Before even Charlie and she were married, she was a very successful businesswoman. She understands what leadership takes. She understands what's at stake, and she's got a lot of help around her. Really the whole team here is around her to try to help see her be successful with this mission. We've already grown considerably. My own faith department has grown double. We went from 4,000 churches that we worked with to now 9,500 churches that we work with since September 10th and really since Charlie's memorial. And so we feel safe with Erika at the helm. She's doing a great job. It's an honor to serve her, and to continue to serve Charlie now through her is a blessing in my life.
子供たちはどうですか？
Obviously, I mean, look, Charlie and Erika were always very private, with their own personal family and their children. I had, so this scenario, I want to be a little bit more sensitive, with just for their sake. But, they're doing well. Erica's got a great team around her. And the kids are able to kind of be in this process, in this journey, just as they always were with them. I mean, Erika and Charlie have always had sort of a life in motion. And so I think that that's something that they continue, but are able to put a lot of protections around the children and shelter them from this as best they can, And so I won't say any more than maybe what Erica's already stated publicly. Obviously, it takes time to help kids understand what's there, and she's been, I think, doing as well as anybody can to just guide her children through this, and has the right support team around her to support them during this time. And so. But this is you can't. There's nothing about this that should be what a child should have to go through or have to experience. And so our prayer is that the Lord would just kind of shelter them under His wings as best as possible during the season, and that and just somehow that out of this tragedy. That there would just be a beauty on the other side in their lives as He just gives His grace and abundance to them. And so, I would encourage the viewing audience just to continue to pray for her, pray for the children, because obviously this is more difficult than anybody could ever imagine.
チャーリーが亡くなる前、最後の訪問先が日本になったわけですけど、その事実が、ルーカスさんにとって、また日本人にとってですね、どのような意味を持つとお考えでしょうか？
Yeah, first of all, I think that there's something about human nature that a man's final words, final talks, final speeches always hold a place of this weight, this gravity, this significance. When viewed throughout their life. And obviously we don't always know when we're going to pass. And so we don't ever know what those final words are going to be. There's very few instances. I mean, if you're laying in a bed dying, you maybe know that these are your final words. Or if you're, very aged, you can know that these are some of your final words. But when you're younger, when you were Charlie's age, you don't know intrinsically that these talks that you're going to do are some among your final talks. But I want to tell you about my final words with Charlie. And that was actually while I was in Aruba, I was on vacation. He was over in Japan, and he was coming back from that trip, and it was on his return. I didn't want to bug him a lot while he was there. But I checked in with him, and I just said, "Hey, how's the trip going?" I knew he had some significant talks. He was going to be speaking with some major leaders over there in Japan. with this more conservative or nationalist party that was there, and Charlie and I had talked about those meetings prior to him going and talked about some of the faith aspects, the significance of the moment that Japan is in. I think that there are, from my understanding, and I won't claim to be an expert, there are a lot of those in Japan that would want to emulate the spirit of Charlie, to the heart of the MAGA movement, the heart of what they're seeing with maybe President Trump. They want Japan to have a moment like that to create a strong Japan or a stronger Japan. And I think that Charlie saw that, he understood that, but I think that what he knew that maybe wasn't as well understood was that the reason why we have these things, the reason why even Donald Trump is successful as he is, the reason why MAGA became what it became, the reason why even the American experiment, our constitutional values carry the significance and the weight that they have and have been so successful, is because of the gospel that's behind them. And it is our Christian faith in this nation that distinguish us from other nations, that allow that to be so successful. And so I think that was something that Charlie had on his heart to bring to Japan when he came, and to try to communicate. One of the last things that he shared with me was, he said, "Lucas, you'd be so excited. I just was able to share the gospel with a massive group of Japanese leaders." And he was so proud of that. And my response to him was that I was proud of him. Although I worked for Charlie, and we started it with a kind of a friendship that we got to get to know each other a little bit, and then I became part of the team.
いやもうこれは今回のこれはもうあれよね、やっぱりチャーリー・カークが日本に来て、この辺の一連の流れはね、僕らも一緒に喋ってよく知ってるけど、チャーリーからルーカスに送られてきたメッセージ、この日本でのねイベント公演があった後のメッセージってやっぱすごい象徴的だしね。
直後でしたからね。
そうでやっぱり彼が言ってた日本の保守とか愛国運動とか、あと日本人でマガと同じなんだと思ってる人たちが理解できてないことがあるって言って、彼が言ったことがやっぱりアメリカの建国精神、建国っていうのはやっぱり福音なんだと、聖書なんだっていう、そこが分からないで表面的に国を守ろうとかっていう、そこで連携できるっていう、そこは理解できてないんじゃないかっていう、ものすごい深い洞察だと思うんですよね。ということで非常に重要なメッセージではなかったかと思われます。